Hi there folks, and welcome back to the channel. What you saw in that intro is part of a fantastic multiplayer event that our server admins put together on Project Zomboid. They built a racetrack from scratch and arranged an elimination style race on the streets of Kentucky, as well as a couple of fun races too that got very wacky indeed. So in this video, I'll be taking you through the journey of competing in that event as I joined some of our community on the track and showcasing some of the best moments. Usually this would be the point I do the usual like and subscribe stuff, but instead I'm going to say thank you to our amazing admin team that put all of this together. They put in an incredible amount of work every month to make our server special, and I'm beyond thankful for their support in making an inclusive community with some amazing folks within it. Okay, so without further ado, this is when Project Zomboid went to the races. Before we could get into any racing, it was time to select our vehicles, and as I stood there in an outfit that would probably only be worn by the unknown cousin to Wario and Waluigi, I knew exactly which car to choose. So with my noble steeds selected, it was time to head to the grid for the first time and take part in an introductory race simply to gain knowledge of the track and get used to driving these vehicles. No eliminations here, just a chance to practice and soak up as much information as we could from a single lap. Nothing was at stake here, but I still wanted a good start, and thankfully that was exactly what I got when the race kicked off. I had such a great start, in fact, that I pulled away from the other racers inside of the first few turns, and as such had time to appreciate the sheer effort that had gone into designing the racetrack. Again, all of this was built by hand by our admin team, and honestly, they'd done a fantastic job with it. Despite a couple of bumps and knocks on the way around the track, I was still able to keep my lead, and I made sure to use that time wisely. I wasn't going through the track with my foot to the floor here, but instead taking in everything that I could in attempts to better prepare myself for the elimination rounds. So, in this race I had finished at the front of the pack, but this was just a trial run, and I didn't want to let it go to my head just yet. The format for the rest of the event was single elimination, meaning that in each race, contestants at the back would be knocked out and the remaining drivers would go through to the next round. We were about to start the first elimination round. Another set of competitors would compete in a separate race, and the qualifying racers from both heats would then make up the second elimination round. In this race, all I needed to do was ensure that I didn't finish last. 4 racers would go through, but feeling the confidence from my practice lap, I wanted to put in a good showing and comfortably secure my place. All that was left to do now was drive. I was off my mark well and roared ahead of the competition, but on the first turn, disaster struck. In a horrific display of dirty tactics from the driver of the silver car, most definitely outside regulation rules and guidelines, I had been flipped into the tire wall and set back to 3rd position. I was only saved by the fact that 2 other racers had similar misfortune to me, and we were all left playing catch up. I was determined not to back down though, and as luck would have it, it wasn't long before I caught up to the 2 cars jostling for first place in the aftermath of an accident at the brick factory. I seized my chance and snatched second away from the black car, now on the heels of the race leader, the very same vehicle that had thrown me into the wall on that first corner. It was time to put the pressure on and wait for my window to reclaim top spot. I managed to stay in their rear mirror all the way through the tight corridor between apartment buildings, past the hospital entrance and through Jim's auto shop, but as of yet, I hadn't been able to force my opponent to make an error. That was until... This was all the opportunity I needed. I zipped around the outside and slammed the accelerator, but in a reversal of roles, they were now attempting to pressure me into making a similar mistake. There wasn't much track left ahead of us though, so all I had to do was keep my cool long enough to reach the finish line. We were coming up on the oil refinery when the chaser made yet another slip, sealing my victory for this race and, more importantly, securing my spot in the next round. I took a break here to reflect on some of the corners I might have been able to improve on, and then it was back to the starting grid for the second elimination round. Only half of the racers would go through from this one, so I had to place either second or first to make it through to the final race. For this one, I was starting at the back of the grid this time, and as such, I was hoping for a good start off the line. It was going to be more important than ever. I had gotten what I wanted, a fantastic start aided by someone's very questionable decision to stop at the start line to let in a friend right as the race began. I found myself on the back bumper of the driver who had pole position on the starting grid, and just like last time, I had to keep the pressure on. The treacherous brick factory was coming up though, and it had already acquired a reputation as one of the most notorious parts of the track. I eased off the accelerator and focused on maintaining a clean line. Success. My decision had paid off, and I was far enough behind to react to my opponent's blunder, allowing me to slip by and take first place for the time being. I was already finding that a couple of runs around the track had allowed me to tighten up my lines on corners and make for faster times overall, but in an attempt to take shortcuts, I made a fatal error, and my competitor whipped by my passenger side window. To make matters worse, the very same car that had stopped to let in a friend on the start line had managed a miraculous recovery and was now nipping at my heels in the hopes of qualification. My sights were firmly set on the car ahead of me though, both cars now taking increasingly tight lines through corners in an attempt to gain mere milliseconds on the other. This time though, my competitor was destined for victory as I lost sight of them around the brewery and they pulled away to secure the lead. Still, I had qualified in second place and I was raring for a rematch in the final. We were now staring down the main event, pitting the best qualifying drivers against one another from both brackets. We had all done multiple laps around the track by this stage, giving us the chance to hone our skills in preparation for what was to come. There was little room for mistakes here, and we were all feeling it as we settled in for the signal to race. A position at the front of the grid allowed me to get a phenomenal head start when combined with a great line through the first corner. Coming up to the brick factory, the competition was right behind me. This had been an infamous section of the track so far, and it was about to show me how it had earned that place firsthand. A crash was going to have ramifications on my vehicle, and I'd gotten away with the blunder only on account of the other racers behind me not being able to react quick enough to my mistake in order to capitalize. My nerves were shaken, but I had to focus up here if I was going to grab the victory. A disaster for the driver of the black car gave me some much needed breathing space, but I knew this was going to be a tight race and that there were other drivers coming up fast behind as I entered the close gap between terraced housing. Out of my rear view, I caught a glimpse of an almighty crash occurring, and what I thought was going to be a competitive race all of a sudden was a sure victory, so long as I made no further mistakes. Luckily for me, all that practice and all that time spent on the track paid off, and from here on, it was plain sailing to a first place position in the finals of our server event. As I waited at the finish line, I was surprised to see that only one car showed up to join me, however. One of the admins was so kind as to show me a full view of what I'd caught just in my peripheral vision during the race, and it was, well, it was spectacular.
No, the content creator can't win! Oh no! Oh god! I'm inside a building, help!
Okay, so that's just about it from me in this one, folks, but before I sign off, there were a couple of other races in this server event, including a very entertaining one where we all drove school buses, and a couple where I was the passenger spectating other races. Since there were a couple of good moments in there, I figured we'd collect a few of those into a little montage for you to round out this video. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you want to take part in events like these, you can join our server by supporting the channel on Patreon for £3 a month. Links in the description, and I will see you all in the next one.
Just gotta find one that's not taken.
Spiv, can we check that like all the front ones are actually occupied as well? Go!
Oh, we didn't get a countdown that time.
My bus has no sound. There's a fire hydrant there. This is so eerie. The fact there's like no sound. It's karma.
Come on, you're holding up the works.
Oh, I just jumped a good few places there. Whoa! Such tight corners. Oh, they've f***ed it. They've f***ed it. We've gained some places. I don't know where I am in the race right now. I feel like we're close to the front. Wow, I was a lot further back than I thought. Oh, God.
What happened?
Oh! Oh! Well. Wait, what's happening here? Oh, the engine's gone. Broke his car. There's still hope, RF.
12 seconds later.
This is so funny.
I had a white car.
They had to get a new one because Sim wiped them out.
So sorry, not sorry.
It wasn't even friendly either. That was malicious intent. It was she went in there with a purpose. Never seen anything like it. I'm not looking forward to racing against Sim.